Stephen, good to see you. How's lockdown 5.0 and how different is it to the previous four?
Well, we barely got out of lockdown 4.0, so we haven't really got to return to normal life in Melbourne to be hit by this one. Hopefully, the news today is a bit positive, and it's maximum, worst case scenario, 7 days, hopefully 5. But as we've all been talking about and we've seen, this is one that is airborne. You can get it casually just by walking past someone or standing in a queue. So you can understand why you've got to be cautious.
Well, I mean, it hasn't until now really been associated with spreading outdoors, but there's been a couple of links from the football, which may well, and are you expecting that to change the game with crowds going to the AFL or other sports for that matter?
Well, I think if you look at the most conservative of our chief medical officers, Kerry Chant, yours in New South Wales, she's now saying this is a game changer. This is one that we have to behave and respond to differently. And I suspect it's going to be a long queue to get into a footy match when we get back to that stage of having crowds, because people have to stand significantly apart so that they can't possibly transmit.
So we are going to have to get used to this. I mean, I'm sure people are probably, drawn the link that for the rest of this year, until vaccination gets to a certain level, that there will be, for Victoria, lockdown 6.0, maybe even 7 or 8.0. There'll be others for other states as well, because as we've seen for these last two outbreaks, particularly this one in Victoria, because it shot through the roof last Friday all of a sudden, they're going to have these quick shutdowns to stop them from spreading.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting, an experiment here in Victoria, a short, sharp lockdown. I mean, if there's serious criticism of what the Premier of New South Wales did, was that she didn't lock down properly, she didn't lock down fast enough. So we'll have a real test case here in Victoria that if it gets out, because we know it's so virulently spreads, this will be the experiment. Can we get it under control really fast with those short, sharp lockdowns? And obviously, the only way forward in the medium term is vaccination. And we've got to get as many Australians vaccinated as fast as we can. And I would disagree with some of the commentary this morning. I think we have to at least include children between 12 and 18 in the sort of calculations we're doing. They are contracting it.
Yeah, sure. No, I agree with you on that point, but that's going to open up a whole other kettle of fish when it comes to vaccine hesitancy, isn't it? Because you're going to have kids who have certain illnesses and disabilities or whatever, and parents are going to be quite rightly worried about what a vaccine might do.
Well, that's right, and that's why the government needs to be leading this campaign in the same way that governments have led the campaign in other jurisdictions. I mean, it continues to be extraordinary that the government has been so slow and so poor in its advertising campaign. I mean, a cynic in me says the real reason I haven't wanted to encourage people to get vaccinated is because there's not enough vaccine. I mean, what's worse than where we're at now is if tens of thousands of Australians were encouraged by a really good vaccination advertising campaign if there was no vaccine between their arms. That would really damage the government. And so the cynic in me says there's a reason that they haven't gone down this path, because they haven't got enough vaccine. And even yesterday, 1 million doses, that's 500,000 Australians. That's still nowhere near what we need. This is a government that failed its job last year. And now the country is going to be in repetitive lockdowns because it didn't do its job last year. It was utterly incompetent, promising that we were front of the queue, and then, of course, the famous "it's not a race."
Yeah, well, I mean, that's come around to bite him again. But even when we do get a certain level of vaccination, whatever that is, if it's 70 or 80%, is there any guarantee there that states won't shut down anyway, because cases are still going to emerge, as we're seeing in the UK at the moment? In the Netherlands, we're seeing that, well, they went too early, so they've gone backwards. So,
well, that's
where do we go here?
People out of political expediency and the pressure from the business community and to get the economy going.
Yeah, you're going to have to do that at some point.
Yeah, but you've got to maintain, like Boris is on 3 positions on masks in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like we've got to have a staged process where we keep some of the restrictions over time to allow us to be able to respond if we need to. It's just Freedom Day, Boris's government was in so much trouble politically. It's got its health minister had to resign in disgrace. His chief advisor is revealing tell-all horrific details of what an idiot he is.
Yeah.
He just needed a distraction, so he created Freedom Day around 50% of the population, and let it rip. And all of a sudden, everyone's gone, oh my God.
See, the problem is with that, because we're going to have to get to the point where we're going to move on, but no one's going to want to wear the political capital if it goes belly up.
Well, exactly, and so you've got to have a managed process, an honest discussion with people. I think if the Prime Minister had an honest discussion, he just said, look, I apologise, I got it wrong last year. And these are the steps we're going to have to go through, not just some 4-point plan that I can re-announce every week to pretend I'm
with no dates,
Yeah.
Hey, Stephen, good to chat as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Good to chat.